Hello, everyone, and welcome back. And I hope everybody enjoy their weekend, enjoy yourself, but be safe out there, okay? Now, we want to get into the Georgia Senate Committee. Okay, I apologize for that, y'all. We are now watching the Georgia Senate Special Committee hearing, okay? And the hearing is going to base on investigating the district attorney Fannie Willis. Now, we got a young lady. She's supposed to be testifying. I don't know if she against Willis or not, but I hope she got paperwork. Let's listen, y'all. Thank you for joining. And this is your girl, the real deal. Yeah, Lanita Gill. Here go the scoop.
Former director of the Juvenile Diversion Program with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. She has voluntarily come forward during the legislative session and presented information to me about the running of the DA's office and some misappropriation of federal grant funds. I subsequently asked her to give me some documentation to give me some proof of that. Come on in, Senator Estevez, sit wherever you would like to. And Senator Butler, you may sit at any place you want to. These are not assigned seats. If you have another place you'd prefer to sit, that's fine. Okay. So I've looked at some of the materials. She has a notebook full of information here today, and I have not copied that. We have not put that into the evidence of the committee unless we'll find out what you have that is not privileged or confidential and that is relevant as we proceed. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to swear you in. You have your counsel with you, Mr. Mario Williams, is that right? And you may have things you would like to add as well, and if so, I can swear you in at this time as well, okay? And we'll do that. If you'll raise your right hands, please. You swear the testimony you will give before this committee today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
I do. All right. Madam Court Reporter, we're going to start with Miss Amanda Timpson, and Mario Williams is her counsel that's with her. Ms. Timpson, would you please just introduce yourself to the jury? You don't have to give us your specific residence address, but tell us where you live and who you're working for at the present time.
Sure. My name is Amanda Timpson. I am a resident of Fulton County, and currently I work for the Momentum Advisory Collective, a national nonprofit working with justice-involved youth.
Did you previously work for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office?
I did.
And what years did you work with the DA's office?
I worked with the DA's office from 2018 to 2022.
Would you give us just a little bit of background on your educational history, your educational background?
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology from Georgia State. I have a master's degree in human behavior from Capella University, a postmaster's specialist in community intervention, and several other certifications in ongoing education.
Okay. What was your employment history just generally before you became employed by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office?
So I've worked in juvenile diversion and with gang prevention for about 15 years, and it started in Los Angeles, in Compton, and I worked and volunteered in spaces and nonprofits from youth diversion to gang prevention to mental health services. When I relocated here to Atlanta, I taught at both APS and DeKalb County School District for about 4 years combined. And then in 2018, I came on at the District Attorney's Office under Paul Howard as the Director of Gang Prevention and Intervention.
When did you move back to the Atlanta area or relocate here to the Atlanta area?
I've been here for about 9 years,
And
about 10 years, excuse
when you
me.
worked for DeKalb County Schools and Atlanta Public Schools, what was your role there? Were you a teacher or a counselor, or give us a little idea?
I was a middle school social studies teacher.
Okay. And so what led you to apply for employment with the district attorney's office?
Prior to relocating here in Atlanta, my background was gang prevention, and so when I came here, I didn't really see too much of that. It's a passion. It's something that I got into due to experiences in my own life, and I just felt like I understood gang issues from a unique standpoint, and I wanted to be a part of the solution.
Tell us a little bit about your position there. I don't know that I could repeat what you just said with the, did you say you're the Director of Gang Prevention?
And intervention, okay. Yes, sir.
And that was under District Attorney Paul Howard?
Correct.
Was that a position that was funded by a grant or something he created, or it would have been an opening? Tell us how that became a possibility.
Yes, sir. Sorry. So he created the Office of the Gang Coordinator, and under that office was the Unit for Gang Prevention and Intervention. He saw an uptick in criminal street gang activity, specifically in youth, and wanted to work to divert some general funds and apply for grant funds to eradicate gang activity in Atlanta.
Were you the first Director of Gang Prevention and Intervention?
I was.
Okay, so that was a newly created position that you applied for?
Yes.
Okay. And Paul Howard was the DA here for what, 18 or 20 years, I guess, before Ms. Willis?
Correct.
Is that who you reported to, or did you have another supervisor?
He was my direct supervisor.
Tell me what you did in that role.
In that role, I created diversionary programs. I worked with Atlanta Public Schools to educate their school resource officers on gang trends that we were seeing in our office. I also was tasked with creating a steering committee of Fulton County residents and leaders to try to kind of steer the direction of the gang prevention. I was also tasked with creating opportunities for gang prevention, and one of those opportunities was we were gifted a building at 475 Fairburn Road, and we were going to rehab that building and turn it into the Gang Prevention Center for youth empowerment. And so I managed all functions of that center, including creating programming and working with partners in the community, as well as the rehabilitation, so working with engineers, contractors, etc.
So you helped develop that center, get it retrofitted or refurbished or whatever for those purposes?
Yes, sir.
So that was a gift? Some citizen donated that for this purpose, or?
It was actually donated by the county. I'm not sure exactly that process. It happened prior to me coming on board, I believe, in 2017. The county gifted it to the DA's office, and the DA's office sought to create a gang prevention center.
Just didn't say nothing.
So that may have been one of the motivating factors for creating your position once you had a facility there for youth gang prevention and intervention or whatnot at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay. So tell me about the funding. You mentioned that there were some general funds from Fulton County, and then there were federal grants that helped fund your position in this program?
So my position was funded fully by the DA's office. And there were general funds allocated to rehab the building. The grant funds were allocated specifically to fund programming out of this building. So when we applied for the grant, we applied for it with the thought in mind that we already had this building and that we already had funds to rehab this building. So we got it contingent upon the building being there.
And give me an idea of the amount of the grants or where they come from. Federal government, some department, what's the?
Yes, there was one specific grant that was specific to the building, and that was the OJJDP, the 2020 OJJDP Gang Prevention Grant. And so that was given to us in October of 2020, and the amount was $488,564, I believe.
Okay.
No offense, but if you still
Sorry,
think
y'all, about
stocks,
commercial.
real estate, or
Hey,
crypto are the
Thugger.
best passive income investments.
I didn't say that, but you said it for me. Thank you.
Tell me what that stands for, OJJDP.
The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention.
So was that something that you had a part in applying for that grant?
Yes, I helped co-write the grant. Myself, my colleague, and our grant writer all contributed to co-writing that grant in early 2020, I believe.
So you submit that to the Office of Juvenile.
Wow, so she did that during the 2020. So she must have got a PPP loan to do that. And then another thing I want to say before we can go ahead on and continue. It's not unusual to find a social study teacher to leave the school system to go into a political area, y'all. It's not, because I know a teacher did that.
Justice at the federal level.
Yes, sir.
I guess other DA offices around the country also can apply for these type of grants.
Yes, they're very competitive.
And you won. You got
Yeah.
it was granted to you.
Yes, sir.
All right, and that amount was $488,564.
Yes.
What were the funds to be used for? Do you have to specify that when you apply for a grant, how much money you need and what you're going to spend it on?
Yes, and I think one of the reasons that we were awarded the grant was because our grant was so specific. So the grant consisted of us narrating basically the gang issue in Fulton County. So we broke it down by zip codes, by active gangs in those specific zip codes, by correlating schools that those gangs fed into, and then the age range was 12 to 17. So ultimately, the grant funds were supposed to be allocated for the programming that fit that age range, that population. And so the programming would consist of sub-awardees, which are other organizations that are doing the work in the community. We don't necessarily do all of the work. A lot of times we manage the work. But all of that was supposed to be done out of the gang center, if that makes sense.
That does. So you as the coordinator would have other private organizations that are charitable organizations wanting to intervene with troubled youth to prevent gang violence?
Yes, and in this situation, it was all nonprofits and excluding Fulton County Schools and Atlanta Public Schools.
Were they engaged or involved as well?
Yes.
But you didn't have to pay them for their
We did.
services?
We did.
Some of these nonprofits you would provide funding to funneled through this grant?
Correct.
What are the rules around federal grants? You sound pretty savvy about that. Are there specific reporting requirements or spending limitations? What happens once you obtain the grant?
So once you obtain the grant, you have to provide a clear budget. And once you do that, they'll release the funds. Once you release the funds, you have to basically show your work. So that is manifested in a quarterly report. So you manage your sub recipients, and then every 4 months you send in a quarterly report that.
Well, then the question is, how much do you have to have in your budget? She said nothing in your budget. So you can't have no money in your budget to have your grant? That's weird.
Basically illustrates what you've done with the money and ensures that there is that you're following the grant.
Right. And so that initial budget, do you have to lay it out to the federal agency how you intend to spend the money?
Correct.
They get to approve or reject that, or is that part of the application process?
We've been lied to. This is the
Sorry
worst
about
I've ever
that,
seen
y'all.
it. You're supposed to
I'm listening
work
to this
hard, get
grant
a
thing
degree,
because
go to work for a big
it's a
company.
lot of grants out there. And then she came up with her own grant. Good idea, but she got some money, so.
Bit of both. In the application, you outline what your intentions are, but you have a certain amount of time to go back and say, once you've gotten the award, say something doesn't work out, say a nonprofit closes their doors and they no longer can be your partner, then obviously you can find somebody else that does comparable work, and then they could fill that spot. But there's not a lot of leeway because they obviously give you the money for specific things. So unless you can ensure that you are still doing those specific things, then that's the only way that you can get an exception.
Was any of this grant intended for salaries or compensation for employees of the district attorney's office?
There was. Part of the grant was to, I believe,
You
the
believe?
community resource officer. On the grant, I believe 50% of their salary was paid by this grant. And so that was the only portion. Their salary and their fringe benefits were paid by this grant.
Was any of your salary paid for by this grant?
No, because I was a district attorney's full-time employee.
All right. When was that application submitted? You don't have to give me the precise date, but just the general time frame.
COVID messed up my dates, but I believe it was either the very end of 2019 or that first part of 2020.
And when was it granted, or when did you learn you had obtained that grant?
The last week in October of 2020.
Okay. And so Fonnie Willis would have been elected in the first week of November of 2020.
Yes, she was elected a week after.
Okay. Y'all listen now. Just tell me what's going on now.
When was the budget submitted that you mentioned, or the spending plan that allowed the release of the funding?
I believe that was in late January, obviously with the change in administration and it was still COVID. They understood and gave us some time, and I believe it was in late January.
All right. The full amount was awarded, the 488?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as you are doing your role, are there other grants that you applied for as well?
There was no other grants that I specifically applied for. There was other grants that I helped manage, and if you want me to go into that.
Yeah, we learned an awful lot at our last meeting about the Fulton County DA's office budget, that they get some state funds, they get, their allocation or I don't know what you call it, their funding from the county itself, and then they get all these federal programs or federal grants as well.
I'm listening.
I'm trying to flesh out the federal part now because
And y'all, this is important because this is telling you what's going on. And what tripping me out is y'all better take advantage of a lot of these grants. Yeah, go online, go Google and ask them to tell you a little bit about some of these grants. And it's free money out there, y'all. Where some of the grants you don't have to pay this grant back. So a lot of things that y'all might want to start, your business and stuff beside the PPP loan, there are grants out there, okay?
the county knows, I think they gave them 36 million last year.
What?
And they mentioned a big 75 million amount of basically COVID funds that it wasn't all spent to the DA's office, but for the justice system. But I don't know that anybody really knows what the total budget is at the DA's office or how much of that is funded through federal grants.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to get you to educate me a little bit.
Me too.
You knew specifically about this OJJDP grant.
Yes,
You
sir.
helped write it.
Yes.
But there are other ones that you would have helped manage or administer.
Yes. So the other one specifically that I helped manage was the JAG grant. So it's a Justice Assistance Grant. It's also a federal grant, but it's allocated to the state and then ultimately delegated to the counties, and then the county commissioners allot it how they see fit. For the DA's office, it was to fund the junior DA program.
All right, let me slow you down 1 minute.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
please do.
I'm absorbing this information a little bit slower. You know it like the back of your hand.
I like
That is a
this
social
senator.
justice
I like him.
assistance grant,
Yes, it's a justice assistance.
and that's why you call it a JAG, for the Justice Assistance Grant.
Yes, sir.
And that is distributed among various DA's offices in the state.
Yes,
Do you have to apply to the state to get that, or is that coming directly from the feds?
it's coming directly from the feds.
All right. Do you know if other DA's offices around the state of Georgia receive grant funds from that JAG grant?
I believe so. I just know it's the Edward Bryan Justice Assistance Grant, and to my knowledge, I believe that some, if not all, can get it, but I think it's based on need.
And do you know the amount of that grant, the JAG grant, for this? Apparently you used it for the junior DA program.
Yes, correct. I don't know the we have been trying to get that information for quite some time. I just know that it funded the junior DA program, which I believe yearly spent about $20,000. So it was a small grant for the DA's office.
Tell me about the junior DA program.
Yes, sir. It's a crime prevention program specific to youth, middle school and ninth grade, so 6th, 7th, 8th, and ninth grade. And it's essentially to bridge the gap between community and law enforcement, and basically show youth, what the functions of the of different forms of law enforcement, everything from, we go to the Atlanta Police Training Center, the Horse Mount Center, we go to the state capitol, we go to speak with judges and, just different officers. Sometimes they even get to work with the SWAT officers. And overall, it's just to, again, create camaraderie between youth and law enforcement, and just show them overall functions of that process.
How many kids involved in that program every year?
Well, under Mr. Howard, it was in excess of 80 to 120. The 1 year that I did it under Ms. Willis, there was only 40 youth. So, and that was also during 2021. So I know COVID probably had partial, fault in that as well.
Is that a year-long program?
So it's a summer program, and it's run for 3 weeks throughout the summer, and they come with us every day. I believe that year they were with us every day but Friday.
Why did Amazon send me $20,000?
This is, I like her this is because she know what them middle school kids need, and I like that. She see the trouble.
Type program, but you don't spend the night.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you educate these middle school children as to the justice system, both
That's
from how
good.
the DA's office operates, law enforcement operates, and various aspects
That's part
of
of
the
social
community.
study. y'all.
Absolutely. And it's really geared towards at-risk or low-income populations as well, because a lot of times they can't also, summer programs cost a lot of money, so this is a free option as well.
So it's free for the kids that participate in it?
Yes, sir.
And that's what the grant is, to fund the operating cost of that free program?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any parameters around how you spend that money, or who's allowed to participate in the program?
Well, the program is specific for Fulton County youth, and you must be attending Fulton County schools or Atlanta public schools. And then again, you have to be in 6th, 7th, 8th, or ninth grade.
And that program was already in existence during Paul Howard's tenure as district attorney?
Yes, I believe in 2019 he celebrated his 20th year doing it, so he did it for quite a long time.
That's a long-standing Atlanta Fulton DA office program.
Yes, sir.
It was in place long before Fonnie Willis was elected.
Yes, ma'am. Sir.
So she inherited it, so to speak.
Yes.
And did she take over the program after that, or did she designate a specific individual in the DA's office to monitor or manage that?
Yes. Michael Cuffey, he was, at the time, he was the chief programs officer.
Okay.
And he he oversaw all programs, so he was my direct supervisor at the time, and he was the direct supervisor over myself
So,
and the junior DA program as well.
so Fonnie
Was
Willis
Mr.
was,
Cuffey with the DA's office during Paul Howard's tenure?
No.
Okay, so he was a new employee, came
Yes, sir.
in with Miss Willis.
Yes.
Okay. Who did you report to as the Director of Gang Prevention and Intervention?
I reported directly to Mr. Howard.
Okay. Did your role change after he was defeated by Miss Willis?
Yes. So the week after she was elected, she sent an email to the DA's office, all current employees of the DA's office, along with her new organizational chart, and basically told us that a lot of changes were coming, and one of those changes would be employees. And so while we were all guaranteed an opportunity to apply and interview, she would guarantee us an interview. We weren't guaranteed a job. And so once upon reviewing the organizational chart, I realized the gang prevention unit had been abolished. So my job was...
so in other words, what Fonnie Willis doing, since that guy wasn't there anymore, she gonna bring in her own committee, and that will usually happen. But if this young lady was doing such a great job working and did so hard work getting these grants for these kids, I don't see why Miss Willis wanted to change up on this particular employee, because she's doing a good job with doing, something for the kids. So let's listen, y'all. This is telling you what's going on.
not there for me even if I wanted it. And so I found 3 other positions and applied for those positions. And on November 20th of 2020, I interviewed in front of a 9-member panel. Led by Miss Willis and Nathan Wade and Jeff DeSantis and 6 other individuals. And ultimately, on December 9th of 2021, I received my invitation to the administration along with the congratulations letter.
On
Well, that's
January
great.
9th of 21,
December 9th, I'm sorry.
December 9th,
Of 2020.
2020. Okay,
Yes.
so she didn't officially take office until, I would assume, January, right?
Yes.
Okay. But she went ahead and was having the transition, hiring new people. All right.
Yes.
So Mr. Wade was on this committee that interviewed you?
Yes.
Was he employed by the DA's office at that time, to your knowledge?
I don't know because I didn't know him. I just knew that he was, I would see him around the office, but also,
Wade was on the committee, y'all. Ain't nothing wrong with that. If she go with him, well, woo, y'all better listen.
I just knew that he was one of the main ones leading the interview, and so I just took notice between Miss Willis, Jeff DeSantis, and Nathan Wade because they were the main ones leading the interview.
And who is Jeff DeSantis?
I believe he is her media personnel, but I know he's an attorney, but I don't know his exact title in her office.
Had he previously been employed by the district attorney's office?
No, he had not.
So he was a new player in the game.
Yes,
Okay. So your interview must have gone well,
it did.
and you were awarded the job.
I was.
What was the new job? You said there were 2 or 3 different positions you looked at in the new administration.
Yes. So my new position was the Director of Juvenile Diversion.
Hey,
So still working with troubled youth.
hey.
Yes.
Was that just a renamed department as the reorganization, new organizational chart went, or was it very similar in duties or something totally different?
It was a little bit of both. Similar because I worked with the same population, different in that it wasn't specific to gang related or gang involvement, and also different because the focus of gang reduction kind of shifted, and it was a lot more just open, I would say, like as far as just any youth who were justice involved. So I would work a lot with juvenile court.
Okay, so not just specific to juvenile gangs, any juvenile problems or issues.
Correct.
Okay. Now, same salary? in the new position, or
Yes.
okay? Was there any unit that dealt specifically with youth gangs under this reorganization, or it kind of came under your umbrella as the director of juvenile diversion programs?
Yes, there was, so it came under my purview, so there was no more gang-specific unit, other than the prosecution unit, the gang unit of attorneys I am programmed, so there was no programs for.
We are kind of learning as we go how massive the DA's office is. Do you know how many employees totally in the Fulton DA's office?
I don't,
Do
hundreds.
you know how many attorneys, assistant district attorneys?
If I even spoke on it, I wouldn't be accurate because I haven't been there in 2 years. However, I know there's hundreds,
All right.
at least
It sounds
150,
like
I would think.
hundreds of support staff or other administrative personnel such as yourself as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is in this new positions when you began reporting to Michael Cuffey.
Yes.
Right. Did you continue to supervise the OJJDP grant
Yes.
in your new position?
Yes. I was actually written into the grant as the grant project director. So no matter what I did, if that grant was valid, I would be supervising the grant.
All right. But you weren't paid through the grant.
No.
Right. And did you continue running the junior DA program?
Yes, for a short time.
All right. So, all right. Well, as 2021 begins, you're in your new role that has the same duties and more, and you're now reporting to Michael Cuffey instead of Paul Howard.
Correct.
Did you notice any irregularities or problems with the administration of this OJJDP grant?
Yes. In early March of 2021, after a lot of the administrative work was done on the grant, we need to now get to work. And so Michael Cuffey, who is the new chief programs officer, invited myself and my colleague, who also co-wrote the grant, into a meeting just so he could understand the scope of the grant. In this meeting, this was the first time that he kind of mentioned what he wanted to spend the grant on, and he articulated that he wanted to spend the grant on computers, travel, and swag. And at the time, we were saying swag, because there was a lot of rebranding going on. And so, like, each unit now had their own sweaters and their own mugs and stuff. And there was a complete and total rehaul of the building and stuff. So this idea of having swag was
They're trying to tell you what to do with
was
your
like
grant.
a big thing. So those are the
These
three things.
trinkets. These are pins and
Yeah.
coffee cups and T-shirts and
Exactly.
sweatshirts, things
Exactly.
promoting the new district attorney.
Correct. And so I quickly kind of interjected and let him know that those were not things that we could do with the grant. At that point,
Y'all hear that?
it seemed as if he hadn't read the grant narrative. And so I
They
just wanted,
trying to tell that woman what to do with her grants that she wrote. And what, they trying to say, hey, you have to use some of that grant to help out with this campaign. See, people they thought since she was young, she was kind of,
to educate him. I was a bit concerned, but at that point, it was the first time I had heard of it. I just tried to kind of set him straight and tell him, like, oh, we can't do that. It's
There you
really
go.
specific, and it's specific to programming. We can't buy any equipment. And that was a huge thing because in the grant narrative, in the grant budget, it says specifically no equipment. And so his idea for wanting to get computers and even pay for travel, like, those are completely out of the scope
There
of the
you
grant.
go.
And you know that because you wrote the grant.
That's
Correct.
right.
And in the grant plan, you tell how the money is going to be spent.
Correct.
And in the budget, you identify how it's intended to be spent.
Correct.
Did any of those documents provide for spending money on swag?
No.
Did any of those documents provide for spending money on computers or other equipment?
No, sir.
Did any of those documents or budgets provide for money to be spent for travel?
No.
Okay. And how about on the junior DA grant. I think we called that the JAG grant. Were you continuing to administer that in March of 2021?
Yes.
And did you notice or detect or hear about any intentions to improperly spend that money?
Not in March, but as time went on, yes.
So what happened when you straightened Michael Cuffey out and after he had told you his intentions of how he intended to spend the money, you told him that was illegal? What was his reaction?
Initially, he let me know that it was the employees in the DA's office called Miss Willis Madam. So he let me know that it was Madam's vision. And I basically said, okay, I understand that, but that's not what the grant says. And as a director of the grant, I wanted to make sure that I was careful and clear what the grant said. And this grant was written prior to her coming in the office. I assumed at the time that maybe they just weren't aware, but I just wanted to make him aware that that is not what the grant says.
Okay. Did you hear further conversations about the misuse of the money, or did he follow your advice and not spend it on swag and travel and equipment?
So initially, that was just the initial time. I continued to be persistent and to let him and everybody else know that we could not spend the grant in that manner. And he persisted to say that that was what we were going to do with the grant. In weekly meetings, we had weekly program team meetings. He would say that, so it was multiple people that, heard his intentions to spend this money that way. And I was just persistent in letting him know that that was not what we could do. And I noticed as I persisted to let him know that my treatment drastically started to change. Yes, specifically from in the form of being disinvited to meetings or being blatantly rude, or when I said, hey, we can't do that, just staring directly into my eyes and then just walking off. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't know, if this was an intimidation factor or what was going on, but I just knew I had to stand my ground because I was, fearful of the misuse of funds.
Okay. Well, so the story ends there, or did you continue your complaints?
No, I continued my complaints. Ultimately, in May of 2021, the overwhelming retaliation and pushback got so bad, I sent an email to Ms. Willis and I told her that I had followed the chain of command to no avail and I really needed to speak with her. At this time, I believed that she had no idea what was going on, and I wanted to make her aware of what I thought to be a potentially illegal and dangerous situation, and I didn't want there to be any scandal related to her administration.
You sent that directly to her?
I did.
Did she reply?
She did not.
Okay.
What?
But I believe 2 or 3 days later, Mr. Cuffey approached me and said that he knew that I reached out to her and that no matter what I did, that she was just going to come back to him. And so at that point, I didn't really...
Wait a minute. What? I was just about to say that man is over that area, so she's not going to intervene with what he has to done because they already have... Sonny Willis already got her committee, already met with her committee and the way she want the thing run, and she's not going to interfere with what you got going on over here. So that's why she wasn't going to get in touch with you, honey. And for him to come at you like that kind of
know who to go to or what to do, because when I attempted to make her aware of what I saw to be a illegal situation, it was told directly to the person that was doing what I saw to be illegal.
That ain't good.
Mr. Cuffey.
Mr. Cuffey.
Okay.
Correct.
Did you complain to anybody else other than Mr. Cuffey in your email to Fonnie Willis?
Not in my initial email. Things started to progress as far as my retaliation. It was almost daily that it was something. If it wasn't something, it was, something else. Eventually, the junior DA program started to near. and he started saying that he was going to be buying Apple products with the junior DA
What?
funds.
Apple products like Apple iPhones or computers?
Computers.
Okay.
So he
And
continues.
he,
Hold on, y'all.
I don't know why, but
So I'm gonna tell you what they doing to her. Okay, so they continuously want to take her part, her grant, and do what they need to do to support Miss Willis. That's what I hear. Now, what they gonna do to this girl right here? They're gonna make her try to quit on her own or look for another job. That's how they have to handle her because she had that grant going on before Miss Willis came in with her team. Okay, people allegedly.
he just really wanted these Apple computers. So I let him know that we couldn't do that with the junior DA funds either. And so he took me off the directing the junior DA program and put other people
What?
in my place. And then eventually, when junior DA started in June of 2021, I noticed that there were youth in the program that were not Fulton County residents, weren't even residents of the state of Georgia. There were
Listen, y'all,
youth
and then
in-
y'all on her side about Young Thugger. Y'all on her side about Young Thugger. Let's listen how her team, Fonnie Willis' team, allegedly trying to use this girl fund grants on things that gonna help Miss Willis. And so they're gonna remove this lady, something that she created. So in other words, they want to get you out of there. So think about Young Thug Rico. What is it really for? What are they really doing? They're talking about they want to clean up what's going on over there in South Atlanta. It's still a problem over there in South Atlanta. So if y'all got teens who coming in from out the district that y'all want her grants to serve to, then y'all doing wrong. So how can we trust anyone?
in the program from Florida, from Wisconsin. And so, of course, I questioned it. I felt like, our youth in Fulton County have so much need. Why are we not focusing
Thank
on
you.
the youth in our county? And the grant application or the application to the program specifically say that must be Fulton County residents, must attend Fulton County or Atlanta Public Schools. So when I brought that to him,
Still talking about Mr. Cuffey.
Mr. Cuffey, excuse me, sorry. So when I brought that to Mr. Cuffey, the next day I was told that we needed to have a meeting, and he attempted to put me on some type of a plan, like a professional development. I've never been written up, never had any warnings, so
I was wondering if you have a history of being a troublemaker in the
I do
workplace.
not. I do not. And in the evidence that I gave you, I also included 24 letters of recommendation from everybody that I've worked for in the past 12 years, including everybody here in Atlanta that I've ever worked for, saying the exact opposite of what's been
Now, she
stated
was
of
for
me.
them kids in Fulton County.
However, he tried to put me on some plan, but the plan was like a personal attack on me. It talked about my appearance, and it was just not a professional. So I escalated my concerns to HR. Human resources, excuse me. So the HR personnel in the DA's office, her name is Kyra Banks. I reached out to her on July 7th. 2021, and we met on July 20th. And I basically told her all of my concerns, and she said she took notes and told me that she would escalate my matter. On July 23rd,
Escalate, in your view, means take it up the ladder to
Yes.
a higher, somebody above Mr. Cuffey.
absolutely.
Okay.
On July 23rd, there was additional retaliation, and it was just so much. I was extremely anxious, even coming to work, because I just didn't know from day to day what type of retaliation I would receive. On July 26th, I reached out to Dexter Bond, who is the chief of staff in the DA's office.
To Ms. Willis?
Yes.
Okay.
And I reached out to Dexter because we worked in the previous administration, knew my work ethic, and I just felt like I needed somebody in the office to understand and know what was going on. And
What was
so
his role with Paul Howard?
he, under Paul, I think he wasn't chief of staff. I think he was the, I can't remember his exact role if I'm being honest, but he was.
So why you didn't
a
write it down?
high
Administrative
up,
position?
yeah.
Okay.
And he's an attorney as well.
He had worked in higher levels of administration for DA Paul Howard as well.
Yes, and I believe he worked with Paul Howard for like 7 years. So he.
Okay. So you reached out to him
Yes.
directly. All right, tell us about
And I told him there were youth in the junior DA program from out of the area. I told him how he treated me. I told him about the PDP. I told him about the OJJDP funds, and I sent him a copy of the PDP, and I told him in a text. Well, I spoke to him in person, and then I sent him a picture of this professional development plan, and I said to him specifically that at this point in time, like, he's putting you guys in a situation where I have multiple potential lawsuits because of how he's treating me. And I said, I need to speak with Ms. Willis because I don't believe she knows. That was, I believe, at 11 o'clock in the morning. And then about
Yes, she
5,
do know,
he
but make you
responded
think
back
she
to the
don't know.
PDP by saying, wow, period. This is a problem, period. Then text me saying, you have a meeting with the DA at 3 p.m.
this is in July of 21 sometime.
Yes, this is July 26th of 2021. And so immediately, I felt like a weight was lifted. Finally, I'll get to let her know because I felt like I was trying to, in part, protect her, protect the youth of Fulton County, and just protect the integrity of these grants. And so ultimately, at 3 p.m., I went to Ms. Willis's office. Judging by Dexter was in this meeting, I could tell that she was already kind of briefed. And I went to, she said something to now what's going on? So I went to speak and tell her, I said, I'm concerned about the way the grants, and I think I said something else, and she cut me right off in the middle of my sentence and said, effective immediately, you're going to be moved, and demoted me to the role of file clerk. Immediately,
You went from a department head to a file clerk.
Then I tell y'all what was going on here. They gonna try to force that girl to quit. That's how they do in the state jobs and the county job. They'll do anything to move you out of that position, but they don't know, they don't want to move you because you was doing something good right there before they came in. So that's what they doing, forcing her out of her position. Golly.
Correct, a program head. So I went from the director of juvenile diversion to a file clerk, which changed not only the function of my job, it changed my schedule, it changed my location, it changed, this is frivolous, but I was taken off the website. I was essentially like banished for what I saw to be protecting her at the time.
Did she say why you were being demoted?
No, not at that time. The meeting lasted maybe 2 to 5 minutes because she cut me off immediately and told me I was demoted. So I was kind of left flabbergasted. And I reached back to her that evening via email just to get some clarity. And that was the first time I ever heard that she was saying that she wasn't pleased with my work. And it's important to note, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, I feel like we're already there, but it's important to note that 3 weeks prior to this, she had just asked me to assist in another department. So 3 weeks before, she wasn't dissatisfied with my work. So it was shocking to me that suddenly she was dissatisfied with my work the day that I disclosed that I was concerned about the way these funds were being spent.
They bully you.
You have mentioned several times about retaliation. What type of conduct or actions were aimed towards you that you felt were retaliation? This demotion's pretty clear cut, but
Yeah.
Were you being treated differently by Mr. Cuffey or Mr. Bond or any other supervisory type employees?
Yes. Treatment as far as, like I said, being disinvited to meetings, just the attitude of when I would ask for things or ask for additional, like guidance or feedback, it wouldn't happen. I also, in addition to, well, I sent him an email because he was essentially stifling my work. I was completing tasks that had asked me in previous meetings, and I would be asking him like, hey, did you get this to her? Hey, I've had this done, did you look over it? I'm waiting for your
See, I'm
feedback.
gonna tell you, Mr. Cuffy is getting into. I'm not about to put nothing. I like what Miss Willis doing and Mr. Cuffy is doing. Then instead of the other DA was doing. See the other with her grants. If she, in other words, what Fonnie Willis committee wants her to do is to play use like a donation to go toward Fonnie's anything that campaign. It seems like they trying to let her, since you got this grant going, in a way we can get us a little piece of whatever out of this, the donation from the grant. Yeah.
Back, and I was just essentially put on the back burner. Also, like the PDP, the demotion was the first act from Miss Willis directly, and then after that, because of the change in my work schedule and the change in my work location, I had asked for
Why you looking at
accommodations or a different setting because they were rehabbing the building, and it was causing me some health issues because I have existing condition, and I was told no, and told if I brought it up again, it would negatively impact my
what?
future evaluations, which would impact my employment. And about an hour later, my laptop was
What?
confiscated, so I couldn't work from home even if I wanted to.
What?
Sometimes I would come to work, and now as a file clerk, I
Look,
would.
y'all, this can work in for an advantage, disadvantage, and advantage for this lady with this grant. Cause we really haven't got deep into the grant, but we knew what the grant was made and what it's supposed to be written for. Okay, uh, Miss Willis is not feeling comfortable about this grant because she knows about what grants are used for and what a grant can do, and why didn't the grant help Mr. Paul group, to campaign or do, put pins and stuff. Why did that grant kind of like help out with the office? It could have helped out with the kids too, but we don't know what she doing with the grants ourselves. So you know what I mean? So Miss Willis probably, I'm just saying, listen to what this young lady just saying. Miss Willis have deep concern about why that grant can't do this and can't do, why is it not doing this and why it's not doing that. You know what I mean? You sometimes you have to dip in and step in like Miss Willis did, Fonnie Willis did. How she get a grant? How she do this? What make her do that? But remember now, she was a teacher. They use grants all the time. They trying to see what she doing with the money. Is the money involving things that she do? So she don't want this lady right here, to me, seem like she don't want nobody else involved with her grant, because if they be involved in her grant, they are allegedly being involved with her finances. So I can't, but I can't I'm not going against Miss Willis' team for what those grants are used for. I'm not, but that's her grant though. So her grant can do what her grant want to do, but see, she got a written notice of what she can do with her grant because she wrote the grant, and the grant already has been written. Some still ain't right in between this. Something ain't, and then they trying to push her out the way because she's not trying to help them. Okay, so
Literally be putting thousands of documents into alphabetical order and then creating an Excel spreadsheet. And things
What
would,
department were you in as a file clerk? Were you changed to a different department or just removed as program head and kept in that same juvenile justice department?
no, I was moved to record restriction, and then ultimately I became the file clerk liaison between pre-indictment, pre-trial indictment diversion for adults and the record restriction. So stuff I've never done
before.
or have
Okay.
any type of.
They don't
Record
want you.
restriction is what us old guys used to call expungement
Yes.
from your record. Okay, now
Yes,
they,
sir.
they restrict your record so people can't see about your prior convictions or charges against you that you've resolved through a pretrial diversion program or first
Right.
offender plea, something like that.
Yes.
Okay, totally different than what you were trained to do, your interest, your background, and your experience under Paul Howard's office.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I didn't receive any real training, so I couldn't go into certain systems. The only thing I could really do is put things in alphabetical order and
Why
put them
did
into.
that's still not a good reason to move her from her something that she's interested in doing with the juveniles. In other words, they trying to get rid of your grant, baby. They trying to get rid of your business. I don't know why we can't work together.
Excel spreadsheets, and that's what I did. And there was 2 occasions where I came to work and the over 1,500 documents that I put in alphabetical order were now all in disarray. So things like that, to where it just made coming to work a very anxious event.
Okay. Did you ever have any further conversations with Miss Willis where you expressed your concerns about the misuse of federal funds?
I did.
Hey, baby.
So on November 19th of 2021, I had an opportunity to speak with Miss Willis again. And because of the fact that the first time I spoke with her regarding these funds, I was demoted, I decided to report her.
Thank you,
And
Flock.
I think it was just because I was fearful of what type of retaliation even bringing it up would have. But also, again, like my track record with her was the last time I did this, I was demoted. And so I did have a chance to speak with her, and I told her.
Was that an in-person conversation?
It was an in-person conversation.
How did you
What?
record that conversation?
On my phone.
All right, tell us about that conversation.
Yes, sir. I just spoke with her and told her about my concerns with the grants and how I knew that the grants were allocated for a specific purpose, and the way that Mr. Cuffey was essentially stating that he wanted to spend the grants was illegal. It was impossible under the grant. And she said that she didn't disagree with me, and she said she really wanted me to listen to the words that she was saying, that I wasn't necessarily wrong, essentially. And then she proceeded to tell me that Michael Cuffey had failed in her administration, and that everybody who does that essentially pretends to be her friend. And I just went on to say that I felt like there was some, I think I said funny style business going on, and I just wanted to ensure that she knew. And she proceeded to tell me that, things take a long time to get to her. It's a new administration. But not once did she ever say that I was wrong. Not once did she ever say that I was off base or that what I was saying was untrue at any point in our conversation.
Okay.
And so that was November 19th. December 7th of 2021, I wrote her an email, and I CC'd Dominique Martinez, who is, I believe, one of the county attorneys. And I just kind of told her, what I had experienced in the office, and that how my treatment had brought me a significant amount of anxiety. I thought that I was going to ultimately retire from the DA's office,
That's
and
what
it
they
made a
wanted
place that
you to
I
do.
used to be proud of working at. Hell for me, essentially. Never received a letter back
They took
or
what this
any.
girl was interested in, took it away from her mentally and made her become stressful over what she enjoyed doing, and then put her in a position. In other words, they was trying to kick you out the door, sweetie. You didn't help the apartment no kind of way. That's what they think.
Noticed that she even read it. And then in January, I don't know if you want me to go that far.
Oh, you're doing great.
Okay.
Now
You're doing
up to
great,
January
Todd.
22.
Yes.
So you've been still working there for a year. You just got demoted and essentially
Yes.
harassed
I feel so
in your
sorry for
employment.
Yes.
And taken off of websites and cut out of meetings, et cetera. Okay.
Absolutely. And so in January, December 22nd of 2022, I was actually sent home due to COVID. Somebody was exposed with COVID, and they knew that I was unvaccinated, so I was sent home. And then I was essentially, I got sick, and when I get sick, I get really, really sick. And so I returned back to work on January 12th of 2022 with multiple doctor's letters, because that's what they asked me for.
If you weren't contagious with COVID or whatever.
Yes, I was actually told to quarantine for 10 days, and then come back. But it was obviously during the holidays, because I was sent home on the 22nd, and then I came back on January 12th. And January 14th, on January 12th, I got my leave slip signed and all that good stuff.
We don't know what that means. What's a leave slip?
Oh, excuse me, sorry. When you leave from work, so I produced my documents from my physician, and then they
Your
signed.
excused absence, basically. You had your doctor's note.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
And then January 12th, I made my third. I kind of have to go back. January 12th, I made another request for health-related accommodation, but I also, during this time, if I could go back, December 2nd was my first official complaint with the DCRC, which is the...
Okay, we got to slow down on that. That's
Yes.
the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance.
Yes, sir.
Is that a county?
What I want to know was, and I hope he bring it back to our attention, what happened to her program since she had those grants for those kids, those juvenile in the Fulton County? Since they demoted her, where did the grant go to? I hope he bring this up, the senator bring this up. I wonder what happened to the grant. What happened to that? What happened to that area?
Office.
Yes.
And y'all refer to that as the DCRC, is kind of the vernacular in the,
Yes.
as for county employees.
Yes, sir.
When did you first complain to them?
I first complained to them December 2nd of 2021. And I made another complaint, I believe, on December 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then I made my third, well, let me get to the January 14th. So January 14th, the January 12th email that I sent regarding my health, I CC'd one of my supervisors. At this time now, I have 3 supervisors because I'm working in multiple departments. And on the morning of, or on January 13th, she asked me what it was about, and then January 14th, she asked me into her office just to make sure I was okay, or so I thought.
Why is she working in 3 different departments? Huh? And 3 different supervisors. What in the world is going on here?
So I had a discussion with her. I had a pre-arranged meeting with the director of the DCRC, Niger Thomas, at 1 p.m. on January 14th of 2022.
Okay.
Following my conversation with Miss Ramona Toole about
Supervisor that you talked to?
yes, she was my supervisor. I essentially, unfortunately, told her everything. I just told her, what was going on. I told her about my health issues. I told her about the retaliation. And so following that meeting, I had my prearranged meeting with Miss Niger Thomas. I went to that meeting with Miss Niger Thomas at 1 p.m.
She is the director of the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance.
She was at the time, and now it's Melissa Cuthrell, but she was at the
Let
time.
me ask y'all something.
And I
Listening to this lady, do you think that by at the very beginning she had a male leader and a DA, and then when Miss Fannie Willis came in, you got a different. She was gonna bring her people in. That's what a principal does. When he come into your school, he bring in his secretary, the people who he want to bring over to that school with him. His in other words, administrators. Okay, that's what Funnies did. I can understand why she did that. Now, with this woman right here, it seemed like she was part of the guy who left, Paul, I think his name Paul, I'm not sure, left allegedly to be with him. She was working with him and things were working in for her with him. But then when Fonnie Willis came in with with her team, it's like her administration team. It's like, well, what is she for? What is she? Why did she go get that grant? You know what I mean? So I'm not I'm not on nobody's side here. I'm just trying to understand what's the problem with what she was doing with those grants and what happened to the grants when she moved into the moving in all those three different effect the grants that she had for those juveniles since she was demoted. That's why I'm surprised he ain't said nothing about that yet.
went in there to speak with her about the whistleblowing and how ultimately the whistleblowing led to all this additional retaliation. I was in her office for probably about 90 minutes.
The whistleblowing was bringing up the misuse of federal funds.
Thank you.
Okay.
And so I was in her office for about 90 minutes. While I was in the office with her, I received to my county phone a request for a meeting request for January 18th at 2 p.m. From Miss Willis and Dexter Bond. I told Miss Niger Thomas in that meeting that I did not feel safe going into that meeting by myself. And she said that she would have a member of the Fulton County Human Resources Department accompany me to that meeting if I didn't feel safe. And I asked.
Did Ms. Willis tell you in that phone text the purpose or the reason for the January 18th meeting?
No, it was just, it just came to my email from my phone, from my county phone.
So it was an email?
Yes. And so I guess I left that meeting scared, but kind of glad that somebody else was essentially like in my corner to advocate for me. Somebody would be with me at that meeting on the 18th so I wouldn't be by myself. And I went back to my area and continued on my Excel spreadsheet that I started that morning. About 20 to 25 minutes later, there's like a knock on the side of the thing, and they said Capers Green, who was the chief investigator for under Miss Willis. He said, Miss Timpson, I got some unfortunate documentation for you. I need you to get your stuff and we're going to walk you out the building. And he handed me my termination letter.
What?
And
What? Y'all, didn't I tell y'all they were trying to kick that woman out without trying to kick her out? Wow, they got rid of her because she know too much. Yeah, they got rid of her. Like I told y'all they were going to get rid of her. It was a matter of time.
Immediately after you meeting with the director
If she didn't work in their events the way they want things to be handled, oh, you got to go. You got to go.
of the Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance Division,
yes,
you think she ratted you out or told them that you were making these complaints?
I believe that Ramona Toole and the conversation that we had that morning went directly to Miss Willis. And I think that it's possible that Niger Thomas said something. I cannot speak to that. But I think it's more likely that Ramona Toole, who is a good friend and ally of Miss Willis, must have went to her office and let her know that I told her what was going on. And ultimately, I was walked out of the building by 7 armed investigators and given a letter that was completely, it just says that
So what happened to your grants? Come on, let's get to that part.
I'm an at-will employee and that my services were no longer needed.
Did you have a reason for your termination?
They did not include, I didn't receive a separation letter for almost 2 months because they refused to give that to me. But when they did, it just said employee discharge. So I had no understanding to this day because ultimately the PDP that Cuffy had written was, Ms. Willis did say that was null and void. He didn't follow proper channels. There was no documentation. So there was no, I have never received a warning in the almost 4 years that I was at the DA's office. In fact, the opposite. I have received praises from both Ms. Willis and Mr. Howard. My entire time at the DA's office, I've never required or received any disciplinary action on any level outside of the retaliation and ultimate termination from my job.
What are the DA's office's rules about retaliation for raising issues or whistleblowing or bringing irregularities to their attention? Does the DA's office have a personnel policy, or is it covered by Fulton County's personnel policy?
My understanding is, well, at the time that I was fired, under Miss Willis, they didn't have an employee handbook. That was something that was still being worked on, so there was no policy, so we fell under the Fulton County policy. And under Fulton County policy, it's my understanding that it's unlawful, just like it is in the state of Georgia, to retaliate against, demote, or provide any adverse employment actions against somebody who is blowing the whistle.
Okay.
Wow.
And after that, you're out of work.
So yes, after that, I'm out of work. As a last attempt at retaliation, the time that I had been out sick was now reported as leave without pay. That's what they classified it under. So I was for a while until I was able to correct it with Fulton County outside of the DA's office. So they took over, I think it was $4,000 of leave without pay. They kept me on as an active employee without pay, so I was unable to get any unemployment. And so just to keep, myself and my family afloat, we had to tap into my retirement.
Wow.
Once my complaint was actually filed, Ms. Willis made completely slanderous and libelous statements against me. So anybody that essentially Googled me for a job would ask me in interviews, what is this about? And anybody who's ever hired anybody knows that it's already a gamble. So if somebody in a position of authority is saying that this person is inadequate, they may likely believe that. So it made my life extremely hard, and my family's life extremely hard. And just, for me, I'm here today to fight for my reputation, to fight for the youth of Fulton County, but also for the truth, because, I did everything that Fulton County requires me to do to be essentially protected. I did everything that the DA's office requires you to be protected, and I wasn't. every step of the way.
How many jobs did you apply to?
To get the job that I'm at now, I applied to over 1,000 jobs just so somebody would hear me
Okay.
enough for me to be able
First of all, you exaggerating. I know you ain't applied allegedly for no 1,000 job.
to get back into a position that was even halfway comparable to what what I did before. And I've been, I worked it like I was working a 9 to 5. I applied and I made sure that every single day I was intentional about what I was doing so that I could mitigate what had
But
been done
then you retire from teaching right early at an early standards. You retire as a teacher, so you're getting that little bit of fun in too.
to me and make sure that me and my family were okay.
How many months were you out of work?
I think total it was 5, but then after that it was the initial job that I got was just a floater job, essentially to make sure we didn't lose our home and stuff. But it took me until September of 2023 to land a job that was comparable to what I had at the DA's office.
Okay. And you ultimately filed a whistleblower lawsuit.
I did.
And that's Mr. Mario Williams is your attorney here with you today.
Correct.
Is he handling that lawsuit for you as well?
He is.
Okay. I'm going to ask him some questions, and we're going to take a short little break. You have mentioned a number of documents. You've got a gigantic stack of them there in your notebook.
Yes.
I had an opportunity to review some of that, and there's a few that I'm going to get the Secretary of the Senate to make copies of that we may want in evidence before this committee.
Yes, sir.
And when you come back, I'll have you identify those, and we'll mark them, and we'll send them out to members of the committee.
All right, y'all. Let me skip it, honey. All right, y'all. Oh, it's getting good. It's good. Okay, now we're gonna skip it to right here. Okay, we almost finished, y'all. I appreciate y'all joining and watching. Ooh, it's something about this, huh? Something about her to me, too. And I'm still want her to talk about them grants.
There were some issues, I guess, with the other attorney. She came back to me. I know the other attorney. I put in my notice of appearance. I started litigating. I have a little bit of experience litigating government actions against government officials, stuff like that, employment stuff. And so she alleged a whistleblower. That is the main substance of the claim. And we just been gathering evidence. Right now, a lot of you all are lawyers in here. We're in discovery. Discovery's been kind of stalled out because of some of the more broader things going on nationally and in here with DA Willis. So we haven't had a lot of depositions. We're supposed to have quite a few between June and July. So there hasn't been a lot of evidence as far as testimonial evidence, but Ms. Timpson, and the only reason why she's here today, and I asked her, I said, hey, look, it's up to you. I mean, I'm not a big person going in front of TV and all that kind of stuff, but, if you want to go on there and you want to speak your piece and tell your story because you feel like you've been defamed or people are taking things out of context, you can do it. And that's why she came here. She came here because she wanted you all to understand the truth about her experience from her perspective. And I believe in her. I've seen her. She hasn't even, what she walks you all through is just a tenth of the evidence. For example, and I'll give you a good example. Sure. With the DCRC. Now, if you look at the DCRC's final findings, they don't even talk about, don't even address the nexus between what's been said in these documents about must be Atlanta Public Schools, must be Fulton County, and the fact that you have other people outside of Georgia, not just Fulton County, outside of Georgia attending this program, never discussed, never documented. Instead, what they say is off record, because that's the way it works, off record, hey, Amanda, you're right. We're a little concerned that you got perp walked out of a building within 20 to 30 minutes after you met with us, but it's never documented. And that's one of the big problems, I hear back and forth, you try to look at both sides of oversight. Mm-hmm. But if you can report something at all, then there's a failure at the county level that needs to be adjusted so these type of proceedings are getting to another level or another government regulatory agency can actually get justice. And that's what it's about, right? It's just about, hey, if I report something with this type of evidence, recordings, because what she was initially told was, hey, DA Willis said, you never reported any whistleblowing to her. And then I said, okay, well, send the audio recording. And then it's on the audio recording. Then it's like, okay, well, what's the next step after that? Because now you have the audio recording of the disclosure, not to get too technical. So what's the next step? And it just didn't happen. A complete failure at the Fulton County level. So in my opinion, with whistleblower activity, if something goes, especially about misappropriation of funds, if it goes into the DCRC, it needs to go to at least a couple other different regulatory agencies. You know, misappropriation of funds, as we know from the Howard administration, it could easily be investigated by the GBI, easily be investigated by the AG's office. But if it's going to be always that, hey, the proper channel is to do the DCRC, and they're just going to exonerate or don't fully investigate, and nobody's watching that, then that's a problem, and it's been a real problem for Ms. Timpson. I mean, she has a legitimate claim. I mean, it's more than legitimate in my opinion, and she struggled with it for 3 years. And not to throw Fulton County commissioners under the bus, but they've known about it for the 3 years, because I personally everybody's known about all this that's going on with Miss Timpson for years, and nobody took one action about it. Must be Fulton County Atlantic Public Schools means just that. It doesn't mean like in a deposition, maybe you once attended Fulton schools, then moved down to Michigan or Wisconsin or Florida, and now you can get Fulton County money even though you're not living here. You know, so that's all I'll say. The litigation hopefully can be wrapped up by Christmas as far as discovery, and maybe we can get a ruling. But our judge is also the same judge in the situation with former ex-president Trump, and so there's a lot going on.
Good. So Judge McAfee is the judge in the whistleblower lawsuit?
Yes, Chairman.
So you have filed a lawsuit on that matter?
Yes.
When was that filed?
I think 2.5 years ago.
And who are the defendants? Who's the suit brought
Well,
against?
at the end of the day, it's against Fulton County District Attorney's Office. We did try to bring it against, it's in state court, Superior Court, but there's some legal arguments that kind of made it untenable to hold it against Fonnie Willis herself, but in effect it is because it's against the DA's office.
Right. She's the head of it, and she personally
Exactly.
did the termination and
That's
the demotion, so to speak, previously.
That's right.
Okay.
And, you know, I don't want to get, I don't want to preach or anything, but you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself to fire somebody within 20 minutes of talking to a compliance division.
Right.
That's right.
You got to really believe in your heart, man, it doesn't matter. You can't do nothing to me if you're taking those type of actions, because a DA is a lawyer.
That's right.
You already know the time is going to mean everything to a judge, and you just did it anyways.
Without any other type of excuse or
Nothing.
That's right.
pretext.
Didn't even try to write up anything. Knew that she had a disciplinary file that was 0. Came up with emails and stuff after the fact, after the termination, which are easily disprovable, but we don't need to get into all that. But you just have to have a lot of hubris to say, hey, look, you meeting with the DCRC, you just met with one of my main input, I'm going to fire you right now. 7 officers to take Amanda Timpson out of the building. I mean, come on. Almost treated her like she was threatening to bomb the place.
Give me about a 3-minute explanation of whistleblower laws. What prevents that? What makes it illegal? What creates a cause of action if somebody is retaliated against? Well, bringing attention to a public corruption or misuse of funds.
Well, it's been up to the Court of Appeals a couple of times, but it really comes down to this. If you report or you perceive that a public official engaged in misappropriation of funds, and you disclose that, and that disclosure, in response to that, you were retaliated in adverse employment action. What does that really mean? If here we don't have a problem because she was terminated, then you can bring a claim under Georgia's whistleblower statute, and I believe you have to do it within 1 year.
Right.
Okay, I got a question
And
before he say anything, for the senator say anything. What kind of fund did Miss Willis use then against, what is, I don't hear no funds, no misuse of funds with Miss Willis and this lady right here. I don't hear no misuse of fund against Miss Willis again. Y'all got to have proof. Only thing she did, she was it was her work status or whatever she was doing. Cause the DA Miss Willis was too busy. She's a district attorney. She don't have time to be playing these mind games that they are playing with her. So my thing is, your attorney, what fund has Miss Willis misused here? I don't hear it. I don't hear it. I'm sorry, y'all.
And so there would have been a series of actions that were deemed retaliatory.
Absolutely.
The harassment on the job, the demotion, and ultimately the termination.
Yeah, so what I would bring your attention to, harassment happens a lot. We're in the 11th Circuit. So you start talking about hostile work environment, you got to bring a lot of information to prove that. But what Amanda has in her favor is when you send a text message, which I reviewed, and you say, hey, look, you all are not doing anything. I need to talk to Fonnie Willis. There is a lot of claims that I can, and you list the claims that you think she was wrong about some of them, but she's not a lawyer. But you list these legal claims that you think you have again, and you meet with a person, they say, okay, today, file clerk. I mean, the timing of that is just inescapable. Now, you can come back later and say, well, I did that to protect you. Really, you knocked me off my entire career path to protect me? You took me from a directorship to put me over here to stapling papers and numbering, like, not to diminish.
Okay. Still, Miss Willis did not misuse no funds. She put her in a different position, but Miss Fonnie didn't misuse any funds. So we're not here for funds then, right? But we're supposed to be here for misuse of funds, right? Miss Willis didn't do nothing. That guy was trying to get her to use certain things, funds for certain things, and she didn't want to use. So anytime you don't participate and agree with people, they do you like that. They demote you. But I don't see nothing Miss Willis did wrong in this. I'm sorry, y'all.
All jobs are needed. But you knock me off of my career path and you say it's not retaliation and you say things like, hey, I didn't take your money away from you, so we're good. No, we're not good. And then you have the situation within 45 days of having that recorded meeting, she gets terminated and gets terminated on the day that she meets with the DCRC and all the harassment that comes in between. It's not just harassment, it's taking affirmative steps to try to derail your career.
Okay.
And they effectively did that. I mean, look, you all know about economic damage experts. My economic damage expert, and this is kudos to.
I'm not saying if Miss Willis did it or not. I think Miss Willis, she's so, as a DA, she's really busy. And what I hear and listen to, because I'm a good listener, her teammate could be against Miss Willis' teammate, could also be against her, and she don't know it. And you don't know what, or then her teammate can be doing what she want her to do. But I think that it was getting back in Miss Willis' ear wrong. That's why, and then Miss Willis probably was too busy to try to just focus on one person. I'm not on nobody's side, y'all. I'm just trying to put the truth here.
Timpson said, hey, I've never seen anybody mitigate a job loss like this. I hate to even give you this low number, Mario, but I got to give it to you because she did such a good job of getting right back on the horse and riding and trying to get a job for herself.
The 1,000
That's right.
applications for jobs.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
All righty. So this lawsuit was filed then back in 2022.
Yes.
And have depositions been taken? You mentioned discovery, that's request for production of documents and interrogatories and depositions. How much has been done?
I think we've had one or two depositions. We've sent out 30B6 notices, request for production of documents. We had ESI discovery, so that always takes a while, especially with some of the cyber attacks that have been going on. And we're looking at trying to wrap this up discovery-wise in probably August.
Has the DA's office been cooperative with discovery?
No, and I'm gonna tell you why I say that. You know, in Georgia, and I've done this many a times, you can actually do open records requests while you're in discovery. Now, it used to be you didn't even have to notify the opposing counsel, but then they changed it and said, look, you can't just be going around our back doing this. So I did one, notified opposing counsel. Fonnie Willis' office has not responded effectively with the documentation to this day. And all I asked for, because it became an issue in the case, which is an issue, but hey, we have the right to spend the money the way we want to spend it. It doesn't matter that it says must be attending Fulton or Atlanta public schools, given to Fulton County for Fulton County residents and students. So I said, hey, show me that. And you all have the deposition. I said, hey, show me that. Show me where it says in the grant itself, you could do whatever you want. It doesn't matter that it's given to Fulton County schools. If you wanted to go to Alaska and get a student from Alaska, you could do it. Show me that. We can't get an answer about that, really. Except for when the depositions, I say disingenuously answered a question and said, I just interpret that to not mean only Fulton County students.
So let me.
So what y'all
A
saying?
couple of things and.
Hold on. So what y'all saying that she was demoted and fired because she didn't want to use her grant funds to participate in Miss Willis' what you call it? Administration, financial duties. But I can't, I got to hear more than this. I got to hear more than this. Because I don't see where Miss Willis misused funds. So we're not suing her for that. So we're suing her for defamation of her character, of her position. What?
One of these documents on top is called a project narrative. Ms. Timpson, is this a part of the grant application when you're describing what the funds are going to be used for?
Yes.
Okay. So on page 4, just kind of above the pie chart, whatever, it said based on the demographics of court-involved youth in Fulton County, the primary demographic of this population served will be the African-American youth aged 13 to 16.
I see that.
Okay. And then on the JAG program, and this will be this, I don't know what exhibit number this participation application is. It says under education, school attending must be in Fulton County.
That's right.
Yes.
And is that part of that grant, that JAG grant, is that it's for Fulton County youth that must be enrolled in schools in Fulton County?
Yes, and that's the actual DA's application that they put out on their own website.
So, Ms. Timpson, I'm going to let you interject here for a second. How do you know that children outside of Fulton County were accepted into this program?
Because I worked directly with the students, there were several that were either outside.
Wait now, watch what you say, young lady. Wait, watch what you're saying. Cause you said funds can't be used for the ones who outside. Now, I'll pay attention to what she's saying. It's very important. And I give my summary after this, but I'm gonna have to do it like I'm doing. This is how I do on my channel. But listen to what she's saying. He asked her an interesting question. How do she know the student from Fulton County that are using these funds. Now she's stuttering, bouncing around like a cupcake.
Either outside the county or the state. And
Wait a
my
minute.
first
Hold
red.
on, hold on, hold on. Let me back it up just a little bit. Listen to this.
You're describing what the funds are going to be used for.
Yes.
Okay. So on page 4, just kind of above the pie chart, whatever, it said based on the demographics of court-involved youth in Fulton County, the primary demographic of this population served will be the African American youth aged 13 to 16.
I see that.
Okay. And then on the JAG program, and this will be this, I don't know what exhibit number this participation application is. It says under education, school attending must be in Fulton County.
That's right.
Yes.
And is that part of that grant, that JAG grant, is that it's for Fulton County youth that must be enrolled in schools in Fulton County?
Yes, and that's the actual DA's application that they put out on their own website.
But hold up. Now, ma'am, on your grant, is it anywhere on your grant? It's written that it's only for Fulton County students. See, that may be what Miss Willis is talking about. Maybe on the grant now, I hear something on that Jaguar, whatever the thing they talking about, it says something about the out, it's for Fulton County students. But on the grant, it doesn't say that. You are telling that, but it's not, evidently it's not written that on the grant that is for Fulton County students. That's why that man approached her like that with the money. I'm catching on, y'all. I'm giving y'all my reaction as I go.
So, Ms. Timpson, I'm going to let you interject here for a second. How do you know that children outside of Fulton County were accepted into this program?
Because I worked directly with the students, there were several that were either outside the county or the state, and my first red flag was on our first day with the youth. Everybody went around and said what school they attended and where they're from. And there were many students who were outside of the state, outside of the county. It was essentially...
Come on, tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Stop playing around with it, ma'am. Stop playing around with it. What Miss Willis did was, I already did research on this, on those paperwork that you had in there. I ain't on nobody's side, y'all. I'm just keeping it real. That's why I'm the real deal.
A summer program for the most privileged youth around the country. There were elected officials, grandkids there. Fani's niece, or what she represented as her niece from Florida, attended. We went and picked up the niece every morning from her office.
From Bonnie's office?
Yes, from Miss Willis's office. Because she is a minor, I don't want to say her name. However, the documents are in the binder that I gave you. Another young lady that I worked with directly, she was from Wisconsin. She's currently still a resident of Wisconsin, attends Wisconsin.
Wait a minute. So you misused the fund. Wait a minute. Why are we here in this investigation? Why are we here? So it sounds like to me that y'all used the grants and the funds for the people that y'all knew around. Y'all didn't even use it for the kids in Fulton County while y'all sitting up there trying to have a RICO against Young Thug. Y'all supposed to say that you out helping the youth in Fulton County. But it seems like it's an inside job. Oh, Lord have mercy, Jesus. What are we doing here?
Rules. We were able to locate her mother's social media page that shows that they are still residents of that somebody who I won't necessarily say right now, but just won a DeKalb County state judgeship. Her kids attended the program as well. This was not a crime prevention program for at-risk youth in Fulton County. This was elected officials, kids, grandkids, cousins, nieces, nephews,
Do y'all
and
hear that? Do y'all hear what this girl is saying? To me, my opinion, it looked like she misused the grants. She the one didn't do her what she supposed to did. She the one running it. But why she putting it on Miss Willis? She got played with her own work. Oh, help me, Jesus, help me. Gee, she got played, y'all. They found out what she really had the grants for. And what Fit Willis did was, within the system, these gonna be my witnesses, saying that they use the same funds that Miss Willis kids use. Girl, you got set up. It's your fault. It's not funny with Fannie Willis fault here, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm I'm just gonna tell y'all. I don't see how she gonna win right here. She was misusing her own material.
this was during the time when so many people in Fulton County were hollering about the dismay about the water boys. But what were we doing when we were given this money for these youth, but watching them on the news, and that summer
Y'all
specific.
hear y'all know who she's saying. That's why I keep bringing it up to y'all. Young Thug. They Young Thug. I don't know why they think that his people is the problem. We have a problem with gangs, period. Oh Lord.
I just remember, so many youth passing away due to gun violence. And I'm not saying that we could have changed, rewrote history, but I do always wonder how our programs, if used correctly, could have affected the youth in Fulton County for sure.
Chairman, I'd like to say one thing.
Go ahead.
As sometimes this stuff just comes down to common sense, right? I mean, if I come to you and I say, hey, you're the district attorney, you're a lawyer, and I say, hey, there's a misappropriation of funds because this program is for Fulton County and Atlanta Public School students only, and you have people coming from outside the state, then why not say, no, you're wrong?
Right.
You're wrong. That's just not how the program.
No. This could have been handled better than this. This could have been handled better than this. Y'all putting the blame on Miss Willis for the misuse. She know about that grant more than I know about it. Then you know about it. She just said that the grant doesn't say, the funds on the grants doesn't say that somebody from the outside, from another state, can come in. She said she written it, she didn't say on the grants. But for that JAD thing on the other paper, she said that it has that information on there. Y'all got to listen. I'm telling you, it's I don't see where Miss Willis used the funds wrong. I don't. Because the grant doesn't have nothing to do with the outsiders. But the JAD, whatever the JAD thing she got on the other paper does affect what she's talking about. And she's not a baby. She don't been in the school system before. She know if the fund was misused, then it was something she could have did at the time, but she didn't do nothing because she was getting her money. allegedly.
program works. If I go to anybody running this program and I say, hey, I believe that this is a misappropriation of funds, this is not right. Nobody ever said in writing or verbally, hey, Amanda, calm down. You are wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. The grant says this. We get this permission to do. None of this happened. Instead, what happened was ignore her, push her off into the corner, hope she goes away. I'm the DA, I'm whoever, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that if you keep
that I can see that part. I can see that part. What he's saying, what Miss Fonnie Willis was doing. That's how they do. They demote you on jobs when they trying to get rid of you. So it's still something is missing in what this young lady has said. Because she didn't have to use that grant. She didn't have to you put them on that program. She could have just left that job and finished suing them. She didn't have to do what DA said. If she didn't agree with them with those funds, with that grant, whatever she talking about, she could have walked out that job easily and still sue them. Not letting them take advantage of the money. She got something out the deal.
talking, you're going to find
Allegedly.
yourself on the outside of this situation. But I'm looking for a denial because Amanda has so many emails. So many recorded sessions say, hey man, this is wrong, you did this, and nobody's saying, hey, no, that's completely wrong. This is not a misappropriation of funds. I could go, like I said, to one of the 50 states, pick any kid I want, bring them over here, use the Fulton funds for that kid, no problem.
Who decides which kids get to go to the, basically, summer camp?
Well, it would have been me had I not been taken off of it. But in this regard, it was Mr. Cuffey to my knowledge. And the youth, they apply for it. And then ultimately, unless there's some huge red flag, we usually take them. Again, under Mr. Howard, it was 80 to 120 youth. So it wasn't too many that we turned away. However, again, according to my understanding, if you were out of state or out of county, that's automatic. You're not within the confines of the grant. So.
And that's reflected, I've marked it as Exhibit 3, that participation application. It says you must be in Fulton County.
Yes.
And then on the second page, the website that describes the program says 6th to 9th graders from Fulton County Public Schools.
Correct.
And then again on that third page, it says the youth program accepts 6th to 9th graders from Atlanta and Fulton County Public Schools.
Yes.
Right. So there is another exhibit that you gave me, number 4 is the last page in our little thing, junior DA funding breakdown.
Yes, that's
You got
correct.
that?
Yes.
Tell me, what's the significance of this?
This was an invoice that was sent internally from the grants division. As you see, Michelle Henry sent this email out. And as you see, the second line says this is for junior DA programs funding breakdown. And this is for 2021. Line 2 says 27-inch iMac computer valued at $1,799. Line 3 said Zoom small teams. It was like for Zoom credentials valued at $2,120.25 for a total of $3,919.25 of the the junior DA program was spent on those items.
So it's your contention those items are not permitted under the grant?
Correct. Another just kind of concern that I had is that it shows $12,500 was spent on blazers and patches for 125 students. But in 2021, we only serviced 40 students, so I'm not quite sure why we spent that much on 125 blazers.
Got it. Okay, on Exhibit 2.
So I got a question. I have a question. Who was the audit personnel who was the audit personnel and where is that audit record. So that's who it is then. So the grant people, I ain't never heard no people respond to you back from a grant, y'all. This is something where they probably do audit film somewhere, but she wrote her own grants. I don't understand this part.
It says budget summary at the top of it.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Where did that document come from?
Thank you.
So, Exhibit 2 is not Junior DA. This is the OJJDP grant, the one with the project narrative as.
Now listen, y'all. It's two different grants here now. Don't y'all get confused with what she's saying. One grant is saying one thing and the other grant is saying the other thing. Which grant did Miss the OJJDP grant? It says where the kids have to be within Fulton County in the city of Atlanta district. But that other grant doesn't hold no standards, don't hold the same standards that the OJJDP hold. So don't y'all get confused on that.
It correlates with Exhibit 1. And this is the budget summary for the OJJDP grant, which is the $488,000 grant. And I've highlighted line D where it says equipment. And then you can kind of follow it over and it says 0 equipment for all years of the grant.
So you didn't ask for money to be used for equipment?
No, there was no money for any equipment.
And when the budget was provided before they released the funds, it showed you would not be spending any money for equipment?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you see the page behind it, it does say gang prevention program. It says grant.
Up there in the upper left-handed corner.
Correct. It says, but if you see at the bottom, it says district attorney grant, and then unit, it says gang prevention program. So that was the OJJDP grant.
Hold on. What you just say? Gang prevention program, that was the OJJDP grant. Hold on. Let me take it back for riding home. Listen right here. Let's go right here. Let's go back to right here.
Yes.
Where did that document come from?
So, Exhibit 2 is not Junior DA. This is the OJJDP grant, the one with the project narrative as it correlates with Exhibit 1. And this is the budget summary for the OJJDP grant, which is the $488,000 grant. And I've highlighted line D where it says equipment. And then you can kind of follow it over and it says 0 equipment for all years of the grant.
So you didn't ask for money to be used for equipment?
No, there was no money for any equipment.
And when the budget was provided before they released the funds, it showed you would not be spending any money for equipment?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you see the page behind it, it does say gang prevention program. It says grant.
Up there in the upper left-handed corner.
Correct. It says, but if you see at the bottom, it says district attorney grant, and then.
Hold on. There you go. I put it right there so y'all can see it. If you see at the bottom, it says district attorney grant. Now, what does that mean? Do that mean that the district attorney is allowed to use some of that money in that grant? It could do what she wants to do within that grant? It said district. That's what you said. It said at the bottom, it said district attorney grant.
Unit, it says gang prevention program. So that was the OJJDP grant. And this says $1,245 to Dell Marketing, which would have been non-applicable for the grant.
That would have been a Dell computer.
Yes.
Okay, then. They I don't know, y'all. I don't know. They still bought computers. But why is that DA, is it saying DA, district attorney grant, if it's not for the district attorney? So in other words, they still got that Dell computer. They got to tell me more about that.
like the computer sold by Dell.
Correct, and that would not have been in the confines of the grant.
So that was your point for bringing this, to just give us an example of if one really specific. We know this proves that a computer was bought. It was spent from money from the grant prevention program.
Correct.
The gang prevention program from your grant.
Yes.
Okay. And this is what you brought to Cuffy's attention before he did this purchase. You said you can't do that.
Yes, that's correct.
And then you went and told Fonnie Willis the same thing.
Correct.
Okay. And that's when she told you what? Let me be very clear about this, or listen to what I say. What?
Yes.
Okay.
She said that, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. I want you to really listen to the words that I'm saying. So at no time did I told her in that audio recording that the grant is very specific. We cannot do that. And that was her reply.
Wow.
Okay, I got off track, Mr. Williams. So you were telling me about difficulty obtaining
Yes,
the
ma'am.
documents in the discovery process.
I'm not
Did you
ignoring you.
also
I'm just
submit
listening. I'm a good
request for
listener.
production of documents to the DA's office in that litigation?
Yeah, we have that, and we're waiting on some documents. Now, opposing counsel in the case been fine. I mean, I go way back with Miss Hannah Rita, and she's good to work with. It was that open records request that just kind of, I said, hey, I can get this thing in 3 days, or you got to give me something, give me a good reason why I can't. And I just 30 days passed, 60 days passed. It's not worth me filing a lawsuit about it, but it was just obstructionist in my opinion.
Are you aware that there is a lawsuit against her by Ashley Merchant or her client on the open records request?
And I wasn't.
Okay. Are you aware of any lawsuits against the DA's office for refusal to comply with open records requests?
I'm not,
What?
but it wouldn't surprise me, based on my experience.
As an attorney, do you believe that that office is exempt from Georgia's open records law as a constitutional office or any other reason?
Absolutely
I
not.
don't know about the open. I don't know about that information. Do anything that coming from the DA office, should it be open it to the employees or not? I don't know. So
It's a government agency at the end of the day. Now, I'd love to see the legal argument about that, but it's a government agency. If it's headed by a constitutionally elected, that's like saying that we can't get the sheriff anything from the sheriff's office because he's constitutionally elected.
Okay.
I mean, no, I don't believe that at all.
Okay. Anything else? So that lawsuit will be going through the process
Right.
as you're completing depositions this summer.
That's right.
Will Miss Willis be deposed?
She is. I think her deposition is sometime next month, towards the end of next month.
Okay.
And so I think, I can't remember the exact date because it just came across like last week, but I know that opposing counsel absolutely wants to depose her, and just so you know how it goes, see how she stands up to examination, that good stuff, damages, stuff like that.
Because she's a relevant fact witness to the retaliation.
Oh, yeah, very important. Whether or not DA Willis is deposed, that just depends on the law. Georgia has that kind of apex doctrine. So before you can go after a government official such as Fonnie, you gotta have to show that you can't get it from somewhere else and all that kind of stuff. But so it's gonna depend on who says I don't know, I can't recall, or denies things prior to me going after a deposition with her.
Okay. All right. Anything further you want to add?
No.
Okay. Back to you then, Ms. Timpson. I'm going to try to wrap this up because I know folks getting restless, wanting to get out of here. You have heard some of Ms. Willis's public comments about the controversy with her and Mr. Wade, right? Okay. You mentioned early in your testimony that he was present in your interview in the fall of 2020.
Correct.
Do you know what his role was?
He was a member of the transition integrity team. That's what she called it. She ran on this Integrity Matters platform, and so they had her transition team was called the Special Integrity Transition Team, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
And to your knowledge, was he present in all the interviews for the open positions that people had to reapply for?
He was in all the interviews of every single person that I've spoken
Wow.
to that I knew in the
Wow.
DA's office, yes.
Were you aware of any personal relationship between Mr. Wade and Miss Willis back at that time when everybody was interviewing in, sounds like the fall of 2020?
No, I just knew he was somebody important because he was leading the interviews, but I didn't know any personal relationship or anything. I just knew he was clearly somebody that she knew and trusted.
And did you ever learn of any personal relationship?
I do believe at one point in 2021 there was just office talk of Miss Willis having a boyfriend on staff. I didn't know who it was at the time, but just office talk, but nothing that I saw with my own eyes or anything like that.
Do you know what the DA's office policy was about basically having relationship with co-employees or supervisors and their employees that had to report to them?
I just, from under Mr. Howard, I was under the impression that there was like a non-fraternization policy, but that was nothing that I ever had to worry about, so.
Okay. We had heard a little information in one of our earlier hearings about the use of these P cards. Are you familiar with those?
Yes.
Explain to us what a P card is.
So I'm assuming they were speaking about the access cards? Is that what they're speaking about?
They were like a credit card. Mr. Pitts told us about that some employees had ability to pay for travel or meals or things. It's almost like a debit or a credit card, it sounded like.
Oh, then no. I thought you were talking about the access cards, but no, I wouldn't have known about that.
As a, I guess you were a program head, you would not have had access to a credit card or debit card.
I wouldn't have. And under Mr. Howard, I led that unit. And even then, if we needed something, we asked. So that wasn't anything I ever dealt with.
Okay. And under Mr. Howard's leadership, were you ever aware of any occasion where he would have utilized a special prosecutor?
No.
You ever hear of anybody other than employees or assistant DAs that assisted in the prosecution of cases under Paul Howard?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
All right. In your newest role at the DA's office before you were terminated, you said you were looking into restrictions of records and also some kind of juvenile prosecutions. Well, tell me again exactly what you did.
So it wasn't juvenile prosecution. It was actually the pre-indictment diversion program for adults and record restriction. And is that what you're speaking about?
Yeah, I was trying to get a grip on exactly what you were doing.
I literally was just putting things in alphabetical order. There were actually some documents from, I guess, under Mr. Howard that went back all the way to the 90s that I was tasked with putting into alphabetical order. So really busy work, essentially.
Did you get any gauge of what type of backlog there may have been in prosecutions that the DA's office was facing there? I guess this would have been during 2021.
No, I did. I was aware that there was a backlog due to COVID. And I also, I can back up because I did hear from an attorney that was in the office that no longer works there at one point that they were just doing a lot of pleas to cut down the backlog. But that's all I ever heard. And because I'm not an attorney, I didn't get into the weeds with that. I just said, oh, okay.
Okay. Madam Leader, if you would like to question or designate one of your members to have any questions of either witness, now's the time.
I think that the whip had some questions, Senator Jones.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. The information that you provided with the where we have the open checkbook home, it has budget summary and it talks about the Dell Marketing Group, Dell Marketing Corporation.
Correct.
That information was taken from the Fulton County website, correct?
Correct.
And that has all the information as far as this program is concerned, the one from the Department of Justice, the $488,000 grant.
I wasn't able to find everything. Also, some of the documents that I did find actually are very much conflicting with the actual grant narrative that I helped author. So I'm not sure if they, what type of changes happened after I was terminated, but from what I authored or co-authored, they're not in alignment.
So you, and I understand this, I don't care about the fact that you did this, but you established a GoFundMe page, correct?
Correct.
And on that page, you actually have various links that persons can go to at the end of it, right? Mm-hmm. And one of those links, the headline of it is from the Free Beacon, and it says that basically emails say that you were a good employee. It was like Fannie Willis says she's a bad employee, but emails tell a different story.
Okay.
And it cites an email that basically they were going to give you an award. You remember that? And so you're the one who established these links in your GoFundMe page.
I copied and pasted them to ensure whoever was kind enough to contribute to that to legitimize it, because at the end of the day, I want people to know that they're giving to something that is serious and is honest and true. So yes.
Right. And so you read those articles. Articles that you linked. You read them.
Yes.
Okay. So the article that I just cited, within that article that you said you read, links us to the Fulton County website as far as this project is concerned, the $488,000 project.
Okay.
And so you actually are directing people to go to this website to read this article, which then has a link. So I understand you're saying, well, you don't necessarily know what's in there, but you, to some extent, are adopting this link because you're putting it in there.
That's right.
And that link from the Free Beacon goes to the Fulton County website. And my point is that in that website, whether you agree with everything that's there, all parts of that project are on that website. It talks about sub-report MOUs. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, and I believe there's been some issues with those MOUs and how they were actually spent. So while I respect what you're saying, I also linked several others. So not one is more special than the other, but...
It's not, but it's open there. It is there, correct?
Correct.
For anyone to read.
Absolutely.
Have some understanding of what the project is about. That's my only point.
Yeah.
You can have a disagreement with it, but it's there.
Yeah.
Okay. But right now, and what I'm trying to ask you is that, can you explain? I'm actually going to give you an open-ended. Can you explain what these sub-report MOUs are?
Sure.
Yes.
The MOU is a memorandum of understanding between the sub-grant awardee, which will be an organization that is going to assist in doing the actual work, and the DA's office.
And there's various sub-grantees, I guess, or grantees that exist part of this. Do you know what those names are? I have them. Do you know them offhand?
Yes, I believe.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Chris 180 is one of them.
What is that?
Chris 180 is a mental health nonprofit that works with youth and families as a core provider. It's one of the largest core providers in the Atlanta area. I believe one is WAVE, which is We All Value Excellence, which is a police, I believe it's a group of former officers or current officers that work with youth in the community. One is the Atlanta Police Foundation.
What they are trying to see, y'all, is this lady is all about money. They trying to find out if this young lady right here doing everything to get money. And she using those links to help her get money to go into her GoFundMe to get her necessities. Really, that's what she doing. I don't know about this lady, y'all. I don't know. I don't want to speak too fast. I don't know.
Under the At Promise Center, and I believe I think there's one is the alumni. I forget what it. Alumni Offenders Association.
My question is, why did you have to use those links with your GoFundMe if you're not part of those links? Y'all understand what I'm saying? Okay. Let me.
It's not just one-page summary. It's also a letter from the Attorney General, William Barr, and also it lays out the federal requirements of that particular grant. That's within the link that you had in the Free Beacon that Fulton County has free and open for anybody to see. Is that correct?
Can I ask you something, Senator Jones? Are you suggesting that the junior DA money could be used for someone other than a student attending Atlanta Public School or
I think Attorney, you absolutely understand exactly what I'm suggesting. And
are you suggesting
that? Listen, that this is not everything that's part of that grant.
No, but I want to know.
This body today has not shown all the different aspects of it. I'm not getting into the weeds of litigation.
Can you show me
I'm not getting into the weeds of
that
litigation,
it
and
can
you
be
know
used for a
that.
student outside of Georgia?
You know exactly what I'm doing.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's why I want you to give me the document.
The other
Looking
part
into
of
that
this,
as an exhibit right now.
the other part of this that I want to ask is, from a litigation standpoint, how many other pieces of litigation are there? Have been done? How many other pieces of litigation do you have?
Well, I can answer that.
Other than the one. Go ahead.
So there was a defamation that was barred that she voluntarily dismissed because of the Georgia Tort Claims Act, and there's a pending motion to dismiss on an ADA retaliation in state court.
And what's the so it's pending so summary judgment motion has been filed.
No, the motion to dismiss has been filed, and I'm not nitpicking you on that. It's just a motion that has been filed to dismiss the complaint on the ADA. We have to respond to that, but it's because of the Georgia Tort Claims Act, which intentional infliction of she libel, slander. We could have argued about that.
It's tough to get around.
But yeah, very.
Yeah.
And so what I told Ms. Timpson is, I said, hey, look, the substance of your claim is this whistleblower. You have that suit, and it's going forward. There's no dismissal. There's no arguments. We've been through that. So you need to make a choice as far as what you're gonna. You can't sue Fonnie for everything.
Thank you.
There's all kind of immunities out here, everything. So let's go forward on the whistleblower.
Look how he looking.
And then this ADA, we'll see where it comes. But this whistleblower, and the ADA is about failure to adopt or explore a reasonable accommodation. But let's go forward on what we have, which is the whistleblower rock solid. And that's why I'm just trying to figure out. I'm not trying to insult you, Senator. You have a very prestigious position, and I'm not placating you by saying that. I'm just saying if you do have something that says, hey, we could go to Florida and use money for a Florida student when the application on our website says public attending school must be Fulton County Atlanta Public School. If you have something that says something different, because I did an open records request for it, I couldn't get it.
Can I ask a
so
question?
If you have it,
Let me ask you a question. What you're just citing right now about the Fulton County schools, what program is that?
That is the junior DA program.
Oh, correct. Is that the federal program that I'm referencing?
Well, but Amanda knows the ins and out of that, but I just want to make sure.
Then why would you interject yourself if you don't know the ins and outs?
Well, I just want to make sure that you're given the right information. If you have this information, because you keep saying to us, hey, you did a link, and it goes all the way to Fulton County, and there's all kind of documents on the webpage about all these programs and how they're used. So I'm just asking you directly on this specific issue, do you have something for me?
I have the documents that link.
Can we enter them in as exhibits?
She's provided them.
But you say you have more.
Wait a minute, wait.
What's being used?
Let's hold on, wait. First of all, are we not talking about two different programs when he talks about the JAB program and what I'm discussing?
Right, but I thought you.
See, I understand what that man said. The man said the same thing I just said. The senator, wherever he's supposed to be sitting up there, he's saying the same thing I said. It's two different programs. You got the J something, and then you got the grant. One of them saying that it's only for Fulton County, but the grant is not saying only for Fulton County. That's why I understand why we here.
It's a JAG program, but I did have one quick interjection on what you're saying. I understand that you have gone on Fulton County or the LinkedIn or whatever it's called. But let's just say this. say that is from that is from the DOJ. It says zero equipment. So if she spent $5, that's misappropriation.
Please understand something. I'm not here to discuss this. Y'all deal with that in litigation. What I'm here to discuss is that this committee is actually trying to do an investigation. What I'm here to try to show, and it's very simple, your attorney has to know what I'm actually showing here. I can guarantee people on this panel understand what I'm showing. And that is that we were presented today with this one page as though this is all that references that particular program. And I'm just showing that there are other things that reference the program. That's it. Y'all have litigation till your heads fall off. Have at it.
Right.
I'm not making an opinion about that one way or the other. But what is uncontrovertible is that there's more information than this.
That's
now,
what
no one
I
can argue
said.
that was presented today.
That was symbolic of just that.
I'm saying what was presented today.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is from the papers.
That man, this guy right here saying the same thing I said. I just said that. It's more to this. It's more information that we don't know. And he is right about that. Allegedly. I just feel like that I just think that it's more to this. And it's not coming out right here in this committee to what they're trying to say right here. Oh, Lord. Honey, y'all almost finished. Let me see.
Standpoint, is there not more paper than this? That's my
That's what I said.
That's all I'm asking.
Honorable Senator, this is what I'll say to you. Investigate just like that. Oh, God Almighty.
Okay,
If
listen,
you want to submit
here's my
some
last
more
question.
information,
Here's my
just
last
submit
question.
it.
Here's my last question. My last two, and they really are. So when you were on the team to determine about investigating President Trump, former President Trump, tell us how they came to that particular conclusion.
Can you?
Were you on the team to actually make a determination to investigate President Trump?
No, I had nothing to do with any of
So
that.
you tell us about the decisions that were made, because you were on the team, I would imagine, to discuss how Nathan Wade was paid and things of that nature.
Had nothing to do with that. No.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Jones, if you would like to submit any additional information, you're welcome to do that if you have something that contradicts or helps flesh out the record for this committee.
I was just
You're referencing some documents that were from a link, and you're
yes, I was just getting all the documents that pertain to the federal grant that has been discussed here, specifically the OJ, the Office of Juvenile Delinquency Prevention Grant, which is actually linked to Fulton County website that has all the details of the grant, with the understanding, of course, there may be contentious areas about what's actually been paid or not paid. But the grant itself, all aspects of the grant are actually on that particular link, and I have for those documents, I would like those documents to be admitted into the record.
Can I say something?
Not yet.
Okay.
If you would, please, Senator, hand those to the court reporter. I'll have her mark those and identify them, and we'll have that as a part of our record. Now, Ms. Timpson, what you wanted to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to say that the documents he had were in what I gave you.
They're in that notebook?
They are.
Okay. Ms. Timpson, you have a notebook in front of you that is about 6 inches thick with various tabs, etc.
Correct.
You presented a copy of that to the Secretary of the Senate. I understand that there are certain portions in that you think are confidential or privileged that should not be published to the general public.
Yes.
Can I get you either today or tomorrow, if possible, to flag or identify which of those should be held confidential? And then we will introduce the remainder of your notebook into the record of this investigation. If it duplicates what Senator Jones is doing, that's okay. That's fine. I'd like to ask you if you would do that for us.
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you testified in your civil case about this whistleblower retaliation?
Not yet.
So you haven't given a deposition yet, but you're willing to come here today and talk to us with permission of your counsel?
Correct.
Okay. There is a similar committee in the United States Congress. I think Representative, who's handling that, Jordan? Have you been asked to testify in front of that committee?
Yes.
At one point, yes.
And have you testified?
I have not.
Okay. Has anybody tried to deter you or dissuade you from doing that?
I believe somebody has reached out to my attorney.
Okay.
Nobody's tried to dissuade her. We just elected not to.
Okay. Has the DNC reached out to you?
Yes.
Now, who's the DNC? Democratic National Committee?
Yeah, I think, or no, somebody on the same committee, I forgot who it was. It was a lawyer. She reached out to me, and all she asked was, hey, when you come, you're going to do this. Just let us know the date and time so we can actually be present also.
So she has an invitation to appear in front of that committee if she,
Yeah,
is that way to DC, or will they pay for you to come testify?
I did ask about that.
I know that
They're
right.
willing to pay Amanda's way, but they weren't gonna pay mine. So, you know. But we just chose that. That didn't have anything to do with not going, but we just chose not to do it. But then when this came up and I talked to Amanda, she said, "Hey, look, I just really want to speak on this, so we're here. It's Georgia. We're in Georgia."
And just to be clear, neither of y'all are being paid to appear here today, right?
No.
Sorry. All right. Well, I appreciate both of your time today.
Okay, y'all, they have finished with this committee hearing. It was very interesting, and y'all want to go back, and you have to both go back on your own to uh, uh, put your reaction on this investigation hearing. Okay. Now I want to go back to my chat. Flock, I am here to answer the question that you want me to answer, but I don't do favors. But I will answer that question if on my best of knowledge, and if you still want me to answer that question for you before I go out. Flock, are you still here? Okay, I want to thank y'all for being here, and I hope y'all. This just, I told you, if you want to know what I think about the young lady, you go back and I did a reaction as I go through. That's how I do over here on the Real Deal channel. This is your girl, the Real Deal, Lanita Gill, and y'all just, you know, witness the Georgia Senator Special Committee hearing for investigation DA Fonnie Willis. From what I hear, and before I go, there was two type of grants, and one grant was you don't have to have you don't have to be in the Fulton County, and one that is referred to the Fulton County. And I want to know which grant did Miss Willis use, so y'all can go. I don't see, like that guy said, they need more paperwork than that. If they want to go, want to file a civil suit, whatever they trying to file. Y'all like, share, and subscribe. I'm out.